You're welcome back. This is Newsfile. It's your most authoritative news analysis platform. And I need to note this, that I am reliably informed that it is actually not the case that the finance minister had asked for more time, but it was the speaker himself who decided that the matter, should be placed on ice for specific regions. Because there was also another MP for Doma, I think, who also put a question, which is similar to Okudjeto's question, but his was for a rather broader, longer period, not for just one specific instance of a president's travel. And so that's occasioned putting the matter on ice and not the minister asking for more time. And we will come to why the Minister of Finance is now directing that we should go to the National Security for answers on the course. But a couple of your messages. Kwesi Kisiedu says, Ghana needs to develop its own vaccines for the COVID-19. Yes, we can. Achim Krachi says the revelations by the panelists about the purchase of vaccines, very sickening. Obolo Tui, is that your name? Says that the health minister has been lying to us under oath. The date the vaccines were brought in and the date the vaccines were given to census officials don't even tally. Kente Plug says, I don't think Kwekwa Menu, the health minister, took the decision alone. Why is everybody quiet? Is he the sacrificial lamb? No way. There is more to this than we think. And you introduce yourself as what? A poem I wrote for Ghana. Look, these politicians have been pampered for far too long. The minister should not only resign, he should as well be prosecuted. In fact, some people have been talking about that as well. Tarzan, Dr. Charles Rekubrobe says that Kwekwa Menu is playing pasty fall guy on botched Sputnik deal. Who authorized and established the LC without requisite pre-process and documentation? That's a question he is asking. Yakubu Ibn Chambers says that, in my opinionated view, the health minister is a ceremonial victim of circumstance. There are technical brains within the health ministry that should have known better and acted wisely. The whole saga smacks of setting up the health minister for failure. All right, so those are some of the messages that you sent in. I'll read one last one and then we go to the presidential plane and costs. This is from PK in Elembele. He says, in fact, throughout yesterday, I spent time and resources to compare the performance of MPP current ministers as against that of previous NDC regime. I can confidently say that NDC ministers were 70% better than what Ghana has today in terms of solving our economic problems and building the nation. I don't get the trajectory of your message. In terms of fighting corruption, no, okay, so this has nothing to do with what we are discussing today. So thank you for your message, though. Right, so let's listen to Keno Foriata, Kessel Atoforcing, the minority spokesman on finance, and then Alexander Fenyomakin, the deputy majority leader, on this subject.
Mr. Speaker, as I indicated in my response to the question from Honorable Samuel Okudjeto Ablakwa, the air travel for the President, including the cost for the advanced team, flight arrangement, security, accommodation, and air tickets, are coordinated operationally between the Office of the Government Machinery and National Security Secretariat. Mr. Speaker, as I stated earlier, the President's domestic and international travels are matters to do with national security, the National Security Minister is best placed to furnish this Honorable House with the details that are needed.
So for the Minister to appear before us and refer the matter again to the Minister responsible for national security and the Chief of Staff, we find it unacceptable. We urge our Minister responsible for finance to come back once again to revisit the powers that he has, because he has every power. He's the supervising minister for all financial matters in this country. So it is very unfair for him to have come to Parliament and made a categorical statement that he's not in a position to provide us that information. In fact, the matter is even worse when you decide to look at how GIFMIS operates. The GIFMIS system is so simple. If before they spend on anything, you have to initiate it, the Minister of Finance will have to accept it before a warrant will be issued, and the money before you can even draw down on the money. So I am at a loss for a minister responsible for finance to come before us and say to us that he doesn't know what it is. You know what this means? It is an attempt by the government of the day, the President Akufo-Addo Bawumia government, to hide behind technicalities, to hide their opulence. That is what it is. Yeah. They're only hiding behind technicalities, not to provide information to the people of Ghana. But you see, we are not ending there. My colleague, Honorable Sam Ablakwa, in fact, is going to ask another question, and we expect the Minister for National Security to come and to give us that details. So the matter will not end today, and it will not end tomorrow.
It must also be emphasized that all the supplementary questions by Honorable Ablakwa were overruled by Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker had the occasion to call him to order. So for him to come out to raise issue that has to do with lack of transparency is neither here nor there. Suffice to state that he himself had provided figures, and he put these figures out there on his social media handle. Where did he get those figures from? If indeed he already has the figures, the cost, then why is he asking the Minister of Finance to provide figures? So there is a whole lot of political mischief. The aim of his press conference is to tarnish the hard-won reputation of the Minister of Finance. It is for political point scoring, and I am saying that if he is minded to know the facts, the opportunity is there for him to file a question to the National Security Minister to come and answer.
Right, so you would have followed the story where the president made his Europe tour, and the matters came up with Okudzeto Ablakwa raising issue that the president had done an accumulated flight travel of some 23 hours and is supposed to be doing it at 15,000 an hour. And so the total cost would have come to 345,000, which translates into what he said was a staggering 2.8 million Ghana cedis that had been spent or blown by Akufo-Addo. And he said that was in contrast to the president's rhetoric of sympathy for the people of Ghana. He said, and I quote, "The irony is that President Akufo-Addo engaged in this fantastic extravagance on his way to France to go beg President Emmanuel Macron for debt cancellation. Needless to add that President Macron does not travel in such splendor." Let's begin with Professor Ransford Jampo of the University of Ghana on this matter. What do you make of how seeking to elicit the actual information regarding the cost is panning out in Parliament? Professor Jampo.
Hello, good morning, Samson.
Yes.
Please, can you hear me?
What do you make of the development?
Well, I think this is a clear case of a clash, the tightrope that we as a nation must walk to ensure the protection of our right to know without compromising national security interests. I mean, when I heard about this matter, initially my thoughts were that ideally the finance minister should be able to tell us all the story and give us all the figures. And it shouldn't be difficult for him, as I heard KCL Atofos say. But whether we like it or not, he's raised national security issues here. To be fair to him and to give him the benefit of the doubt, I believe we have to go to Kandapa, our national security minister, to see if we can get some more answers to this question, the questions that have been raised. But we must know that, first of all, the figure or the figures being banded around as the cost of flight for the president per hour may not necessarily be accurate. Given the penchant for the opposition, and I use the word opposition here generically, so given the penchant for the opposition to be propagandistic, we cannot, as a nation, swallow hook, line, and sinker their figures. The actual figure, in my view, may be lower or same or even higher than the ones being quoted. But we are unable to tell for sure unless those who spend the money give us the exact better particulars. Secondly, I think that now that we have been referred to a national security minister, we should also brace ourselves for the potential reality of the national security minister telling us that he is also unable to disclose the cost of keeping our president in the air for purely national security reasons, bearing in mind the fact that money spent by national security or national security issues are kept silent for national security reasons. We know that the budget or money spent on our defense, for instance, may not be made public, and hence I can see a certain wisdom in being told that the head or commander-in-chief of our defense system or army cannot be exposed by having his flight expenses put in the public domain for national security reasons. And by national security, we're talking about the governmental defense and protection of the nation state, including its citizens, economy, and institutions in a manner that assures peace, security, and provides the congenial polity for development. Per this definition, it allows enough room for many things to be done, including shrouding certain things in secrecy. Generally, money spent for national security operations, in my view, are not necessarily quantified and accounted for, like money given to normal governmental institutions. So when it comes to national security, a lot of spendings are done on the quiet, just for the purposes of ensuring the security of the state. And there are things that are paid for, and there are all manner of people who are employed, sometimes even from the opposition, for their seamless role they play towards national security. This may never be disclosed. And as a nation, I think we must decide if national security considerations must transcend the dogmas of transparency and accountability. We must have that kind of discourse and discussions to reach that consensus so that then we can compel the national security minister to fully disclose what he spends his monies on and how much he spends on each item or individual. So until we do this, in my view, anything hidden under the cloak of national security would remain opaque. But now who caused up? It's been like this since 1992. We've had presidents hiring chartered flights on missions abroad, and nobody has questioned how much they spent. And so it's been there since 1992 and has been perpetuated by the very political elite, some of whom are today demanding transparency and accountability in handling these things. I think that as a Ghanaian, I am excited that we now have the right to information bill or act in full force. And I believe, I know, Champion, you did a lot of advocacy to, on this particular act. And so we are all excited that it is in force. And you agree with me that even before the RTI being passed, the 1992 Constitution specifically recognized same right to information under Articles 21, clause 1 and clause 1F. Again, right to information can also be inferred from freedom of expression, thought, conscience, and belief, including academic freedom under Articles 21, clause 1A, and then also B, clause 1B, as well as Articles 162 and Articles 165 of the Constitution on freedom and independence of you guys in the media. So we all have the right to know how much it costs the president to fly the charter jet. However, like all rights, they are limited both by general and specific limitations under the Constitution. Some of the bases for the limitations include for the protection of national security. And you are a lawyer, Samson. Other rights affecting the right to information and national security include Articles 18, clause 2, that talks about privacy rights. So I want to end here because I am almost in the middle of something and you called. So let me end by saying
let me ask my first question to you.
Before I end. Let me end my submission so that you can pose your question. What I want to say by way of conclusion is that as a nation, we must be able to find the requisite balance between the competing interests of national security and the right to information in the context of promoting and protecting the public's right to know. And I believe that access to information is crucial for the effective promotion of national security. But at the same time, in some critical aspects and respect, national security may be enhanced by limiting access to certain vital information which may harm national security if unbridled exercise of right to information is permitted. Thus, national security is not fundamentally at odds with the right to information. But in my view, what should be important is that at the end of the day, national security shouldn't be confused with regime security.
Now, I've heard you clearly question the figures that the Ablakwa has put out. But when he put the figures out, he tells us that aviation experts have assisted him to come to the cost that he put out. So my question is, will it be fair on your part, in the absence of alternative figures, to seek to question the figures he has put out and without any basis?
Well, Samson, you know that the figures of aviation experts are not necessarily the figures or the actual figures that one will have to pay if you want to hire a flight. What happens to negotiations? What happens to discounts? What happens to all those things that you have figures that may be quoted, and aviation experts can give you a rough idea or estimate of how much it is going to cost. But I think that there may be some negotiations and discussions and waivers here and there that may either reduce the cost or, if you like, maintain it.
So your basis of questioning it boils down to suspicion and mistrust for opposition, genuineness on the part of opposition.
My basis for questioning is that, as I said, opposition generically have always been propagandistic. When they are in opposition, they know all the challenges and they are able to expose all that they are supposed to expose. But the history of the Fourth Republic show that when they get to power, they do things that are contrary to their own positions when they were in opposition. And so the point is, I am concerned. Yes, we have the right to know, and I'm interested. When I saw the Okudjeto's figures, I raised eyebrows and I said, can we spend this money on an aircraft, a flight for the president per hour, when we are yet to extricate ourselves from the quagmires of poverty and underdevelopment? But at the same time, I had to do some more search and checks, and then my own readings that points to the fact that sometimes it isn't the case that everything that the opposition will tell you will be right. And,
yes, and
they are not going to. I'm sure the National Security Minister will say that you are not going to force me by your figures to disclose how much is that? Because
we will get to that and test the question of national security. And I'm sure that if we listen to the minister a lot carefully, we would discover that he's not exactly saying that it is national security and therefore will not be disclosed. But he says something to the effect that they have given out money in advance and he is not policing the actual expenditure as in the item by item, how the money is used. It is after it is used that it will come through the gift mix system and he will get to know. However, as to the detailed expenditure, it is national security that coordinates with the presidency for the travels. So I think if we look at it from that perspective, it would have been fair to the finance minister. But my question to you is, you suggest that these people who are raising the questions would have presided over similar situations in the past. And your suggestion is that, therefore, they do not have the right to ask the questions now?
That is simplistic conclusion from your end. I have not said that they don't have the right.
It's a question I'm asking you, sir.
Well, no, you made a conclusion before posing that question. I have not said they don't have the right to pose that question. And I told you earlier that we all have that right to know. But my issue is for us to find that balance between the right to know and national security. Because national security does a lot of things behind the scenes that are kept on the quiet. And I know that presidential travels over the years since 1992 have been national security concerns, or they have been serious, they have had national security implications. And so national security over the years have taken control over the travel, determining the choice of aircrafts who must fly with the president. And they've done this hand in hand with the Air Force and other relevant ministries. And so the point is, yes, you have the right to question, we have the right to know. But as I said earlier on, we should be able to ensure that the right to know would not also make us throw out certain vital information that may harm national security if our unbridled exercise of our rights to information is permitted.
Okay. Thank you very much. Because you said you are off to something, we'll leave you here. Thank you so much for your time. And wish you well in your campaign to be youth secretary. You didn't let me
say anything about my campaign.
Thank you very much. Have a good day. Now, I'm getting this information from the Honourable Member of Parliament, Okudzeto Ablakwa. He says that it is not accurate when I say that the minister did not request for more time. And he says, remember, the minister was scheduled to respond to the question on the 17th of June, as was advertised in the provisional order paper of the 16th of June. The clerk at table informed Okudzeto Ablakwa that on the 17th of June, the day the finance minister was to respond, that he had asked for more time. And again, checks by Abdul Malik Kubako revealed that request from the finance minister for more time was because he received the correspondence from Parliament on the 14th. So it has been a struggle since, culminating in his memo that he has to do to the Business Committee on the 1st of July, which contained a threat to activate Article 82 of the Constitution to pass a vote of censure on the finance minister. And he shares that memo with me. Okay, so thank you so very much for your intervention as well. Now, Martin, what do you understand the finance minister to be saying? Is he saying, like people suspect often happens, that when you want to hide something, you say national security? And is it your understanding of the law that national security means non-disclosure of figures, or national security means non-accountability to the people, or that the aspects touching on national security will be about not disclosing the details of the travel.
Excellent. Yes, so the last point is the one which is in sync with the rule of law and governance, not disclosing so many details that would give away the security of the president, but not the amount spent in this context. You see, I think that thing, so yes, the beginning part where you began from was the old position. You know, those days, as we're all growing up, not reading much, at the invocation of national security, everybody shied away, thinking that, oh, it's a closed book. National security means closed book. You can't go into it. Then as we read more and more, we saw that, no, there are several exceptions, okay? So it's not correct to say everything about the president's travel is national security. And so it's
Transparency International did work and disclosed that there's a lot of rot and corruption which is done under the guise of defense and national security.
That's correct. That's correct. That's the experience. That's why it's shown. But please, we've changed. We are in a different Ghana now. Now, at the click of a button, we all can read. And we are reading and engaging more and more as citizens. So it is not correct that as soon as you say national security, end of the discussion. No. And you see how the finance minister himself said that it should be referred to the Minister for National Security. You see, he didn't say that it cannot be disclosed. Even though at a point he also said certain things are said that, yes, they may be right, but in a certain context, I think that biblical phrase, there's a way of putting it, that like...
all things may be right, but they are not expedient or prudent.
Exactly, it was given that context. But I think that it doesn't apply here. All the honorable member is asking is that, how much did we spend? He hasn't asked what kind of security arrangements were made, which external sources beefed up the president's security, how many soldiers, how many aide-de-camps, and no. It's just about the figure. So in the context of this case, I don't think the national security blanket is big enough to cover this one. No, it doesn't. It doesn't at all.
In the Right to Information Act, Section 9, information that affects the security of the state is exempt. And it says that information is exempt from disclosure if the disclosure of that information can reasonably be expected to, and those are the guiding words, can reasonably be expected to, A, damage or prejudice the defense of the republic or a foreign state allied to or friendly with the republic. If you disclose the figure, the question you must ask, this is the test you do. If you disclose the figure, how will it reasonably be expected to damage or prejudice the defense of the state? 2, prejudicial to the detection, prevention, or suppression of terrorism, sabotage, or espionage. How will disclosing figures as to the president having renting an aircraft lead to all of this? Then it says, subject to Article 135 of the 1992 Constitution, information created by or in the custody of the Ghana Armed Forces or the Security and Intelligence Agencies established under the Security and Intelligence Agencies Act, which is likely, those are the things you pay attention to, which is likely to threaten the security of the state, is exempt. So if the disclosure is likely to threaten the security of the state, it's exempt. The question you ask yourself is, telling the public how much was spent on hiring the aircraft, will it threaten the security of the state?
Not at all. I don't see it. No matter how far you try to stretch it, it won't. It doesn't at all. And that reminds me of, there was this Supreme Court case, Moses Sego. You know, the issue of the note verbal.
Note verbal, yeah.
Yeah, it's, in those days, the Attorney General at the time, the previous administration, went to the Supreme Court, national security concerns, they cannot. The Supreme Court looked at it and said, no, disclose it. Disclose it to the lawyers, and then they will use it. Okay, and as I say, if you read literature on national security, okay, across, it's not just in Ghana here, they make that point. If there is a bigger public interest to know, you will disclose it.
Yeah.
There are cases in the US, okay, In Britain, you know, there was, let me tell you something, during the terrorists, those days, those cases, the Gitmo detainees and all that. One UK minister went to Parliament and he sought to say because of national security considerations, they couldn't disclose details that they had with the Americans. Not knowing the Americans had released the information. Yes, he came, he was showing a very bad light. It's one of the R versus Mohammed, one of those cases. I have read cases on national security because of, you know, some research I'm doing. So please, this mantra people have been bandying around that at the mention of national security, we should shy. Please, it won't wash anymore. We are doing more research into that area, and so I think we should find bigger reasons or better reasons. If he had said he wants details about how the president's security was arranged in the travel and all that, then that one we say no, because somebody getting those details can use that to, you know, compromise the president's security. But far from it, this one is just about how much was spent. I don't see.
And the Right to Information Act, again, when you read it, I'll invite you to always read Section 17. You see, from Section 1 to 16, you see exemptions, all the information that you may not get from the presidency and from various other places. But when it gets to 17, then it poses a test. It's called the harms test. And it's an overriding provision. It says that if the disclosure of the information will serve a greater public interest, weighed against the harm or damage that it may cause, it has to be released. So it may cause some damage, but we weigh it and see which is the greater public interest, and then it will be disclosed. Yes, Dr. Jansen.
Samson, I think that the key principles of right to information, transparency and accountability cannot always be overridden by national security concerns. I think that ought to be made clear.
Yes.
And like Martin was saying, when it comes to national security, the mere mention of national security does not necessarily mean that there shouldn't be any disclosure or accountability at all. Sometimes, even where things are that tight, disclosure can still happen, except that it may be related to time or may be time bound. Yeah. So certain things may be classified and released at certain times. And then if you look or read the jurisprudence around these things, it also tells you that even under those circumstances, some high-ranking officials of state, so for example, leadership of parliament, for example, can have limited access to certain things. So I think that sometimes we shouldn't overflog this principle of national security. But beyond that, I think that the speaker ruled, and for me, it was the right ruling, that having listened to the finance minister and his presentation or argument, he thinks that the right entity, in this sense, to make a definite pronouncement should be the National Security Minister. And I think what we need to do now is to get him within the shortest possible time. If the question has to be reposed or otherwise, that will be subject to parliamentary procedure. But I think that he has to come quickly and clear the air so that this matter is brought to a close. When all these things started, and I heard Honorable Ablakwa, I heard the Defense Minister, Honorable Nitu, all of them here and there coming, then I just sat back and said, this is Ghana. We've come another full cycle. Yeah. This presidential jet debate or debacle, depending on where you stand, is here to haunt us again. Can't we have definite ways of addressing these things once and for all? I don't think America will ever get to the point where they will be arguing as to what the president should travel on, where we should go, what should be bought, what should not be bought, what we bought is not fit for purpose, the Falcon is old, or by now we should get this right. I mean, look, from President Kufuor's era to date, it's been a long period. And I'm sure these things even started way before President Kufuor's era. But I said Fosak because when he was exiting and some of these things came up, it was a big national issue. Meanwhile, we have experts security people, aviation experts, the Ghana Armed Forces, specifically the Air Force. They are all there to help direct the situation. And I think after this bit, we should be able to resolve these matters once and for all.
But
and
on
have our own
specific issue, I think it should be discussed strictly under the terms of what the finance minister said. So the Graphic Online reported, it said that the minister said, in line with the 2021 budget implementation instructions, the ministry did not release any funds to the chief of staff, specifically for the president's recent trips to France, Belgium, and South Africa. According to him, the current practice is that the ministry released quarterly funds to the heads of departments, including the Office of Government Machinery, for all the operational activities of the office. And he said, quote, to facilitate the safe coordination of the president's travels, domestic and foreign, the Office of Government Machinery and the National Security work together to achieve this. So he was saying, this is what is done. We're giving them money for the quarter, right?
Yes.
Is that the understanding?
Yeah, that's it.
Yes. So if you are coming to me, I will not know the line items, how the expenditure was made. But because national security works with them, they would know. But the minority is saying, when they have spent, there will be a certain warrant through the gift mix process. Yeah. So the finance minister ought to know. Should we have any worries ahead of hearing the national security minister saying, yes, it's national security, so we won't hear you or we won't say anything or something?
Something, I get you. You see, when I started, I said, for me, the speaker's ruling was right. Having listened to the arguments or whatever the rendition was from the finance minister, and you have summarized it, the key point is what you just put out. So clearly, per the finance minister's presentation to Parliament, it was so clear that the detail that we are looking for, he might not be seized with those details as at this point. Because like you're saying, the engagement system works, but a lot of things happened around the travel. If he's not seized with all the information, and I don't speak for him, it's possible that...
He actually said it. He said when you look through the gift mix system, the way national security writes it, he can't understand.
Yes, so if he's not seized with all the information, and clearly there is an identifiable state agency or ministry or department or unit that work closely in hand with the office of the president, I think it is just fair. And for me, it just has to happen ASAP, so that we'll all get to know that, yes, indeed, this is exactly what happened. But if, unfortunately, we are taking on this agenda that it's a national security issue and we cannot disclose it, that is where I think, per the discussions we had earlier, we all seem to have some qualms with that whole approach of lumping everything under national security and basically amounting to something of you denying us our right to information as provided by the law, transparency, accountability, and all the things we keep preaching about. Yeah. And I think these things, we should start getting them right. We should segregate, in quote, the chaff from what the substance is. And let sometimes not muddy the argument. I was very happy when I heard the minority, after all the lengthy, comments, say that, yes, the Honorable Minister was going to bring the question up for the National Security Minister to come answer. If that is the parliamentary process, I think it should be done as quick as possible. But for me, I think the Speaker or Parliament can easily direct that the National Security Minister comes in to answer the question following the presentation from the Finance Minister. Right. We should be able to bring a closure to this in no time.
But Martin, you are right that he raised national security implications, which we must educate
People
those who don't pay attention.
Yes.
That providing the figures has absolutely nothing to do with national security.
Excellent.
Right.
Excellent. And then let me also add that. So actually, I understand Honorable Ablakwa has refiled his questionnaire, so he has to file afresh.
Okay.
Then yes, I understand he's done that.
Okay.
Then listen, you look at the other side of this matter. Now, to the extent that they've done it this way, you see, it's not as if the minister will refuse a total disclosure. No. But as we first started, it means that he may want to do it in closed session. That is where we don't want to, the Ghanaians want to know. Okay. Because if they do it in a closed session, it means the members cannot come and disclose to us, then also, which is what we are fighting against. This is not threatening the national security of our state. So they should do it this in an open...
Earlier, the defense minister had come to give us the other part of the question. He had answered to say, when the president is traveling, important thing, safety.
Yes.
So it was safety that was taken into consideration. He spoke about the facts of how he was doing this particular travel, and that is it our jet or something? A president cannot even have a shower.
Yeah, that's the most important one that we've taken away, right? Yeah, it's created a good sense of humor for Ghanaians that the president wants to shower in the air. Of course, that wasn't the main purpose, but that's it. That's it. So it means that we want it in the full session of Parliament, open to the public, that they will not clear the press corps from Parliament and go on with that discussion. The press corps should be allowed in, then they can take the information and disseminate it to Ghanaians to be educated.
Okay.
That's it.
Right, so let me read the two messages that have come in. I think they are about the first issue because many people still are hooked on to the first issue because that's important. It's about our health. This one says, the finance minister agreed to provide LCs, that's letters of credit, for the Sputnik V contract, even though it had not been sent to Parliament for approval. Does this mean Ken Ofori-Atta also could not think straight? Should he also be called upon to resign? Why are we looking at this from the angle of Ajiman Menu alone? It is not fair. And this one says, Dr. Jansen, your criticism is unfair. You are talking as if the vaccines are available in a warehouse somewhere while the government is just sitting and scratching its bottom. The reality is that a few wealthy countries bankrolled and underwrote vaccine development. This involved billions of dollars. They did this without any guarantee that effective vaccines could, in fact, be produced. They did it because they could afford it. Having taken the leap, they have scooped up nearly all the production and are now leveraging them as part of their diplomacy. Let's be realistic. Could Ghana have afforded to do what they did? Would citizens have supported putting billions of dollars into such a lottery, quote unquote? What if nothing had come of the investment? Africans didn't even want to participate in the human clinical trials. In fact, let's keep this in mind. Not all investments in vaccine development have actually led to actual production. Looking back, it's easy to look back from the comfort of July 2021 and articulate what should have been done 20 months earlier. All right, so thank you for those messages. I suppose this is where we should be drawing the curtains on today's program. Thank you very much to my guest. We have had the privilege of these experts and brilliant minds sharing with us throughout the period. But my outfit, as always, is by Habel's Couture. Habel's Couture. Habel's Couture is an in-house tailoring, and they deal with fabrics and accessories as well. You can find them at Adringano Gate East Legon, Adjuringano Gate, East Legon. And you can call them on 020 that is 0200 841 988. 0200 841 988. Habil's Couture. They will give you the very affordable but the best of dresses like I have. My guests have been Dr. Justice Jansen. He's a lawyer and General Secretary of the Ghana Medical Association. Dr. Kwame Sapong-Asiedu, pharmacist and fellow Ghana Center for Democratic Development. Martin Pebu is a lawyer and rights activist. Dr. Michael Owusu, virologist with KCCR in Kumasi. He's also a lecturer at the KNUST. Professor Ransford Jampo is with the Department of Political Science, University of Ghana. Can't thank you enough. So here we are done. Thank you very much. Have a good afternoon.